If I cook one meal, does that make me a chef? If I crack one ladyboy from Thailand, does that make me gay? If I paint my face as a wolf one time, does that make me a furry? I'll give you the answer to all three of those. No. It's a resounding no. I mean, I post 2 videos with wolf face paint, and I'm getting like 5+ DM requests on some, oh, bro, you're a furry? Oh, I don't know, man. I don't know if I can keep supporting you, bro. It is not that deep. I promise you, it is not that deep. And for the record, I'm not a part of that community. You know, I'm not gonna hate on them, but to call myself a furry after I put some fucking face paint on once, I'd be a poser. You know, I don't rep the furry gang. But I feel like there's a very broad generalization of furries on the internet. They've been pretty universally hated for a while, and I really don't think they're that bad. In fact, they're not bad at all. Furries are just normal, regular people with hobbies like you and me. Their hobby just tends to be a little bit different than your average pastime. But who am I to objectively tell you that watching sports or playing video games or doing this and that is better or more important or more productive than being a furry, right? Do what you want to do. Everybody has their interests. As long as you're not hurting anyone, it doesn't matter. You know, I have some friends that are furries, and for the most part, they're normal. Everybody has their quirks, obviously, but the best people to talk to are always the ones that are a little weird. You know, you gotta have a little personality. And I think furries are just fine. They're regular, schmegular, everyday people that just happen to dress as anthropomorphic animals and have personas. But hey, to each their own, you know? Do what you want to do. And something else that I want to say. I know that there's a couple bad furries. Like, in any community, it's very easy to look at a few bad apples and make broad generalizations of an entire community of people. And that happens to furries a lot. You know, there's plenty of stories out there with furries plus pedophilia forming something that's not so good, right? There's lots of bad stories where people are furries, but that doesn't mean that's all of them, right? You can't just focus on a single tiny subsection of people within a community and assume that that's how all of them are, because you're just outright wrong. And I'm not going to be acting holier than thou. I'll admit it. When I was a middle schooler, like in 6th grade, I would make fun of furries. You know, that's back when it was like at its prime. Fucking, it was like gamers versus furries, like some shit. People didn't like furries on the internet. I'd be like, haha, furries stink. But I think growing and maturing is realizing that hating on someone's hobbies without even getting to know them as a person is fucking lame. And if you do believe that, it's time to change. You know, it's time to grow and develop as an individual. And that's all I want to say. I don't feel any sympathy for pedophiles. In fact, if you were to ask me, I don't think they deserve human rights. If a new law was passed today where you could watch the live neutering of every single confirmed and convicted pedophile, I'd be first in line. I'd have popcorn. But it's very easy for a lot of people to feel bad for predators, especially in modern pred hunting videos, where you'll see these grown men absolutely begging, pleading, and crying for their life as if they're about to get executed, when in reality, the only thing that's happening are the consequences of their own actions. I'll unironically see some people be like, damn, I feel bad for him. Like, I'm watching new pred hunters videos of, I'll give you an example. There's one guy with glasses and a not orange, it's like a brown shirt that looks like a fucking McDonald's bag, and he's like begging, he's like, please don't call the cops. My grandmother, she's 80 and disabled, and she relies on me. Without me, what is she gonna do? Bro, you should have thought of that before you thought with meeting up with a little boy. He was gonna go suck that little boy's dick. Like, I want you to imagine, if you ever feel bad or any sort of pity or sympathy for the pedophiles that are in these videos, imagine what would have happened if it was actually a little kid meeting up with him and not grown men with cameras. Do you know the atrocities those people would have committed if given the chance? Which is why I never feel bad. In fact, modern pred hunters that actually work with the police and get people caught for the things that they do with proof and evidence, they're doing God's work. And, you know, I wish them the best of luck, because watching these videos is not only extremely entertaining, but it's a win-win because you get rid of a... He always opened his unlucky blocks last. Watching the man that Pat has spiraled into makes me extremely sad, because I loved watching this guy when I was a kid, especially, you know, back in the days when you couldn't get modded Minecraft, like any sort of Minecraft mods on console, and I played on the Xbox, and I would watch all these dope-ass Lucky Block videos, and I'd go on YouTube, how to install mods, Xbox, and it would never fucking work. So I would just live vicariously through him and watch the videos that he made, and I fucking loved that shit. I ate it up every single time. Little me was binge watching his shit. And now, he recently got arrested for the 4th time, I believe, and it's just a very unfortunate case to see. I'll say this. The cops in that body cam footage video are some fucking dickheads, because that shit went from a wellness check to them just making fun of a man who was clearly struggling. You don't need to know his personal life or know his history on the internet to be able to tell that this is clearly a broken man struggling to cope with certain events that he's had in his life. And these cops just started fucking making fun of him halfway through as they were just showing him in the cop car. And I think that's extremely fucked up. Those cops don't get paid to do that. They did that for the love of the game. And, you know, it's crazy to think that this all started because Pat didn't want kids, and then he broke up with Jen, and then he had the whole situation with his other girlfriend, and it just went downhill from there, man. It is so sad to see. Absolutely love the guy, and he's still relatively young, right? It's not like his life is over. I hope he does better for himself, and, you know, he might not have wanted kids, but he definitely raised a lot of them. I made a video about Quan Mills a while ago, but he never reposted mine, so I'm making a second one in hopes that he sees it. Here are some ideas that I have for a Quan Mills book that I think would be really interesting to see. Number 1 is going to be Pregnant and Robbed by the DL Tooth Fairy. He's never used the Tooth Fairy before, and I feel like there's a lot of untapped potential with the Tooth Fairy as a whole, since you don't really see him in that many stories, so I think it'd be really... The next one I'd like to see is My CIA Agent is a Twink from 63rd Street. He has mentioned 63rd Street in some other previous titles, but I feel like it's not an avenue that he's explored enough, and I'd absolutely love to see some stories about it. The next one I'd want to see is Thug Hunters versus the Spirit of Ronald Reagan. Now, if you know what Thug Hunters do, trust me, this would make for a pretty good story. And he's never introduced Thug Hunters into the lore of his books, and I think they'd fit right. The last one is going to be Ghetto Aliens versus BBW Velociraptors. These two groups have already been introduced into the Quan Mills lore, and I feel like having a central conflict surrounding the two of them would be a very interesting story to unpack. And with all that being said, those are all the ideas that I can think of for a future Quan Mills book, and if he reposts this video, then I count that as a... Yes, bro, the love of your life is on Discord. Your future girlfriend is playing Creatures of Sonaria on Roblox right now, waiting for the day you come and sweep her off her feet. Your future boyfriend is out there in an unrated Valorant game sexually harassing any girl he encounters in voice chat. Yes, bro, you just have to go out there and keep being on the internet. Is what I would say if I was living in a fucking fantasy land. You know that one trend where it's like propaganda I'm not falling for, and it's just a list of 5 things? Yeah, put e-dating as 1 through 5 on that list, because you motherfuckers will never ever convince me otherwise that this shit is the way to go. Because I've had people who sit here and try to debate me on some, yeah man, online dating is really the only thing that you can do nowadays, because meeting people in real life is just, it's unrealistic, and frankly, it's just a waste of time. You know, to each their own. I've already made my stance on that whole thing very, very clear. I have an entire video dedicated to online dating. And a little personal story that happened with one of my homeboys. He got cheated on by his online girlfriend of like 4 or 5 years with guys that she knew in real life. But you know what? They may have her body. He has her heart. They may get to do whatever they want with her, but only he gets to sleep on the phone with her and play Roblox with her. So really, who's winning in life? You know, obviously, I must be in the wrong. E-dating is truly the way of the future, right? No. A good gay character doesn't just exist to check off a diversity box, because representation isn't just about presence. It's about depth, character development, emotional range, plot relevance. All of these things come together to form a fully fleshed out good character who happens to be gay. And making them a walking, talking stereotype does a lot more harm than good. And a lot of shows have good ways of going about making a gay character, and not so good ways. And I'll start off with the good. Matthew McDell from Big Mouth is one of my favorite gay characters in media, because despite being in the show Big Mouth, he is a very well-written and well-developed character throughout the series, which is ironic coming from a show that leans very heavily into stereotypes for their humor. He evolves beyond his trope, and that's what I love about him so much. Some of you might be confused as to why I chose Matthew, because at a glance, he is the token gay character. He is the most stereotypical put-together version of the sassy gay friend that I've ever seen in any show, but the reason that he works is because of how they characterize him later in the series. Number one, he's a lot of emotional complexity. We see him go through the struggles of coming out. He explores real romantic vulnerability. He has moments of loneliness and sadness that make his character feel lived in and not just a trope for the sake of being a trope. Second off, his homosexuality is present, but it's not the most defining part of his character, because they make it very clear that he's more than just a gay man. He's a love interest, a moral compass, a friend. Matthew works as a character because he's flawed. Although he's mean and needy and rude, he's also brave and a good friend when he needs to be. And that's what makes him a character with full narrative weight, which pushes him beyond the gay sidekick, which is why I think he's such a good character. But all good things must come to an end, and I'll be going into an example of what a bad gay character is. Angel Dust is what I would use as an example for a bad gay character. Why? Because he's reductive, and he confuses liberation with exaggeration, personality with parody. In other words, he's a walking, talking, breathing stereotype. And although they definitely hint towards him having a more troubled past in the show, he is canonically a sex worker. And that's most likely why he died, because he was a sex worker and a drug addict. So he died, got sent to hell. And it's clear that he's not the most mentally stable individual, but they literally just turn him into a giant pile of tropes that have existed in media for decades. And that's why he's not a nuanced character. He reads more like a drag caricature of gayness than he does an actual person. And that's why I would really categorize him as a bad gay character. Don't get me wrong, I guess he has his moments. You might get a chuckle or two out of some of the jokes that he does on the show. But overall, in terms of gay characters, Matthew, Angel Dust, way down. Yeah, I think that's it for me.
I don't want Hunter Schafer to play the live-action Zelda because she was born a man and Zelda's a woman, and that's never gonna work. Is what I would say if I had a fucking room temperature IQ. I saw a really good take on this, and I'm gonna use this exact same line of reasoning. I'm gonna tag the dude who I saw the video from, but a lot of people like to mask their hatred as logic. You like to hide behind the pseudoscience rhetoric that this live-action casting isn't going to work from a biological level, when logic, when selectively applied in cases like this, is no longer logic, it's propaganda. Let's not beat around the bush. You just don't like trans people and you don't want to see a trans woman play one of your favorite female game characters. But let's look at this with your logic, right? She was born a man, therefore she can never play the part of the woman who is Zelda. By that same logic, no one should be allowed to play her because she's also a fucking elf. And elves don't exist, so I guess unless we can find a way to conjure that up in the lab, we should just never have a live-action Zelda. Also, people are criticizing her entire existence and not her actions. That's how you know that this logic falls a little flat when you try to look at it under a deeper lens, because it's not more so logic than it is prejudice.
There are very few content creators on the internet who can say that they carry the respective game that they're a part of. It is an extremely rare privilege bestowed only onto a select few content creators who are truly standouts in the niche that they cover and gain popularity for it. A good example could be XQC or Tyler One. You can definitely say that these guys carried the league scene at one point. Prime C-Day, when he was still making Fortnite videos consistently, was absolutely carrying the Fortnite scene on YouTube, and there was no contest. I think the only guy who could ever rival him was Fearless. But even then, C-Day was still way, way above Fearless for me. And one content creator who you guys might not know of, and I'm going to tell you today, is Fry Him Up. This man has been making videos on the same PvZ Heroes mobile game for 8 years. He has not missed any uploads. He has not missed a week of uploading. This man has been carrying the Plants vs. Zombies Heroes community since he started making content. This guy has been making content on PvZ Heroes for so long. I was 12 years old when I first started watching him, and now I'm a senior graduating high school. Do you know how long this man has remained committed and loyal to PvZ Heroes, despite the fact that we haven't received a single major update in so long? It's been years. The closest thing that we've done is a single balance patch update, which was last December, and that's it. And he is still making content on the game. Fry Him Up is one of my favorite content creators ever because he is a prime example of loyalty. This man is loyal to PvZ Heroes through and through. And it's one of my favorite card games of all time. I fucking love PvZ Heroes, although we are definitely a small, dying community because the fuck else are we supposed to do? There's no new content to cover. He still manages to make new decks and new video ideas and interact with his fan base. And without him, I'm more than 100% sure PopCap would be fucking under. You know, he is the only reason that PvZ Heroes is alive. In my opinion, if he didn't exist, that game would have plummeted to irrelevancy a lot sooner than it otherwise would have. And shout out Fry Him Up, bro. I fucking love him.
I may not like Charlie Kirk as an individual, or a debater, or as a person, but there's a wise saying that goes, a broken clock is right twice a day. And I remember seeing a segment of one of his debates where he's going into detail about useless college majors and how some schools are letting students graduate with degrees in North African lesbian poetry. And even saying that out loud now kind of gives me a good chuckle, because there's definitely a lot of truth to that statement. And I think it's more so for schools like NYU that let students choose and pick and create their entire major and field of study. Don't get me wrong, right? Students being intellectually creative and exploring avenues of learning that they didn't have the chance to is a beautiful, great thing. But why are we sitting here and pretending like these degrees are going to be very useful in the job market that's already cooked, right? Like, job market's already hard as is. What the fuck are you going to do with a degree in post-colonial Albanian finger painting? Please tell me what the point of these useless fuck-ass college degrees are going to do, and NYU will gladly take your money and let you do what you want to do because they don't care about you. They just want to get your tuition money. But still, bro, like, I don't know. There are definitely some college degrees that I would label as not very useful.
I don't like speaking in absolutes, but this is one of the rare cases where I can 100% without a shadow of the doubt call someone a loser, a genuine bottom of the barrel loser. And that man is Goonie4722, the guy who runs this account. I refuse to believe there is anything redeeming that you can find from his content, because do you want to know what he does? Do you want to know what his entire account is dedicated to? I'm going to let you guess from the first 4 letters of the username what the entire account is dedicated to. Gooning. Okay. You know, some of you might be hearing that and think, oh, what's so bad about that? Gooning. Like, who cares? He does contributes to Roblox avatars. That is all he does. Post after post, it is him jerking off onto his phone and coming onto a virtual Roblox avatar. And people are gonna try and tell me that this is fake. I promise you it's real. On my life, your life, on everybody's life watching this, it is real. I promise you it's real. That is not lotion, that is not soap. That is real reproductive fluid being squirted onto that phone. But that phone must smell like fucking hell. Oh my god. I don't know how old he is, but I promise you he is too old to be doing this shit, right? Doing contributes on Roblox, recording yourself busting a nut onto your phone of a Roblox avatar seems like a very odd, weird, borderline predatory thing to do. And yeah, man, I don't see the...
I want to wish a happy Pride Month to all my Mega Knight users in Clash Royale, especially if you use Evo Mega Knight. Oh, yeah, you like penis. You just don't know it yet.
There's nothing wrong with listening to mainstream music, all power to you. There's a reason they're mainstream, it's because they make good music that people like to listen to. And some of the most insufferable people on the planet are the motherfuckers who make fun of you for listening to artists with millions of monthly listeners while they're listening to some unknown artist with like 15 monthly listeners combined, and they just want to feel special and they refuse to tell you who it is. Yeah, those motherfuckers are some losers. But something that I find extremely funny are when people are listening to these extremely mainstream artists and they pretend like it's this unknown holy grail that only they know of. I've unironically had a homeboy say some shit like, what do you know about Tyler the Creator? Tyler the Creator? You mean one of the most successful artists in the world? Oh yeah, what do I know about them, right? Like, they're only like one of the biggest artists ever. Or, here's another good one. One of my friends made a Radiohead song, their yearbook quote. I believe the song was Let Down. The one was like, I'm gonna grow wings. Yeah, that was the exact quote. I walk up to him and tell him, hey, I like your quote. You know, that was a good quote. I like the band. He's like, wait, you know where it's from? Hold on. You listen to Radiohead? Like, come on, bro. They have 35 million monthly listeners. That song has like over 200 million streams. Yes, I know who Radiohead is, bro. Like, who doesn't? You want some real underground shit, bro? What do you know about Chinese football or the Spooks? But you know what? Maybe that's a little too mainstream for you. What do you know about Linus Blanket? What do you know about Rosette? Huh? You don't know about this.
Statistically, 1 in 5,000 men is gonna have a micro penis, and that might seem like a pretty small number, but you've probably brushed shoulders or at least been in the general vicinity of someone with a micro penis once in your life. So I really started thinking about it. How bad would it be if you really did have a micro penis, is your life truly over? Because I feel like there's got to be some things that you can do to make it work, right? So what would be the pros of having a micro penis? Well, I think number one, your shit would never get caught on a zipper. I know that's like a primordial fear. Probably one of the most painful things that can happen to you. That's never going to happen if you have a micro penis because there's nothing to grab onto. That's low-key a plus. You also never have to worry if someone is using you for your body or not because you have a fucking micro penis. What is there to use? You know that whoever likes you truly likes you for you and your personality, and it kind of weeds out the fake people, you know? So, I don't know, maybe that's another... I wonder if people with micro penises are open about it or if they try to hide it to the best of their ability, because I definitely feel like it's grounds for being made fun of if people know that your shit is just like protruding inwards and basically counts as a vagina. So, I don't know, but all in all, if you do have a micro penis, I feel like it's not the end of the world. There's got to be some positive ways that you can look at it, and I can't think of any more, but having sex with Bonnie Blue can go one of two ways. Either number one, you inherit the powers of all the men that fucked her before you and become a superhuman, or your dick melts off like kinetic sand. Which one of the two is going to happen? I don't know, but I can't be the only one who's a little bit curious.
I hate the entire gay son versus thought daughter hypothetical for two reasons. Number one, it's just a stupid argument. And number two, it is the most played out question in the world. If you would truly rather have a slut daughter instead of a son who's just gay, you're a fucking moron. I don't know what to tell you. Like, there's only one right answer here, and it's the gay son. But I started thinking about it, and you want a real hypothetical where it's pick your poison? I'll give you one. Would you rather have a dollhouse roleplay daughter who only ever e-dates, is extremely chronically online, was raised by Discord, meaning that she is probably racist and homophobic to an extremely high degree, and she was posted on Doxbin at least 3 times by now? Or would you rather have a 100% black pill son who refuses to interact with women and unironically has terms like sub 5, Foyd, and low tier Becky in his vocabulary that he uses regularly, and anytime that he interacts with someone of the opposite sex on the internet, he is usually degrading them or telling them to kill themselves? That is my hypothetical. So, dollhouse roleplay daughter or black pill son? Even I don't know what to choose in this situation, because to be honest, I don't think I'd want my children to be either of those. But if push comes to shove, I'm gonna go... God, these are both like... Because both of your children, in this case, their minds have been so fucked up. Their ideology is so backwards that there's no fixing them. So whichever hypothetical you choose, you're gonna be dealing with this for the rest of your life. So I don't even know what I would choose, bro. You are given the choice between 2 extremely powerful artifacts that come at very inconvenient downsides. Which one are you choosing? Number 1 is going to be the Goon Gauntlet. This is a glove that you can put on your hand. Think the same gauntlet that Thanos used in the Avengers movies. And this gauntlet gives you the power of total manifestation. You are allowed to create anything that your brain can think of, whether that's an object, a concept, an animal, it doesn't matter. The only limit to this power is your imagination. You can quite literally bend the fabric of space and time if you have the ability to think of it. So you are quite literally as strong as you make the ability. There's basically no limits to what this power can actually do, but this power only works if you are actively masturbating while you're thinking of that thing. And the second that you stop gooning, it will disappear. Anything that you created with the gauntlet will immediately go away and cease to exist, and it'll be like it was never there in the first place. That is artifact number 1. Number 2 is going to be the Testiclaw. The Testiclaw is a cybernetic implant that you put in your arm that turns your hand superhuman. Your singular hand is basically the strongest thing in the universe. You can crush entire tanks with a singular grip. You can grab nuclear missiles mid-flight and turn them around and play with them like paper airplanes. You can scale buildings with 2 fingertips like you're Spider-Man, except you're literally just a superhuman. And this power can be used in a multitude of different ways depending on how creative you are with it. You could probably fly with it if you just fling yourself up and down, but then, I don't know, getting down might be a little bit of an issue, but your hand is basically the strongest thing in the universe, and no man-made invention or animal will ever be able to compare to it. But the only way that it's functional, this implant is in your arm at all times, and it stays there at all times, but the only way that you can trigger this power is by hanging a 150-pound weight off of your balls. Like, the cybernetic implant can detect when there are weights attached to your balls, and if they're not there, it won't activate, and it'll basically be useless. And if you're a girl, then double downside, you grow a pair of balls that you need to dangle weights from in order for this implant to work. And those are my 2 artifacts. Which one would you choose? Personally, I think I'm going to go with the Testiclaw, but maybe the Goon Gauntlet has its own niche uses. The New Norm is one of the worst pieces of media that I have consumed in recent memory, and I want to talk about just how horrible this show is. And I use show in air quotes because it doesn't even feel like an entertaining thing to watch. It's more so propaganda disguised as a show, and oh my god, this is advertised as the first ever animated Twitter sitcom, and I hope it's the last, because this show falls flat on every single attempt at humor that it tries to convey, that it is genuinely infuriating sitting here and watching this show's attempt at comedy. So I'll give you the synopsis on what the entire show is. The new norm is a play on words, right? The new norm of our society, everything's woke, everything has pronouns, everything's gay, and I don't like that. I mean, we don't like that. So our main character, who's a grumpy old man, Norm, he hates the new norm. He hates the way that the world has turned into. So the entire show is supposed to be a political satire at the state of the world and how everything's woke now, but it's just not funny at all. And it only has 5 episodes. I think it's 5 episodes too many. Just the pilot alone is enough to put you in a coma from how boring this show is. And we have our characters that they use to try to make some jokes, which are unfunny. Chaz, who is the token gay, non-binary character, omnisexual mother of 12. I don't even know what they're supposed to be, but their entire shtick is that they're so gay and they're so queer to the point where it's infuriating. They have pronouns, they wear masks, they're woke, they find everything offensive. And even in the pilot of the show, we're watching our main character try to get indoctrinated by the president into being more tolerant of wokeness and queer people, so they send a government agent who is Chaz into his house to live with him. And then he has to drink gay beer, but he doesn't like it. And they try to play the race card by making the main character not racist because his boss is black and it's also his friend, so he has black friends, he can't be racist. I'm really rambling here, but I kind of want to circle back to why this show is just bad. I think what I hate the most is that this show took a genuinely interesting concept which could have been funny, the idea that the world is becoming so woke to the point where it's absurd, and every single action and opinion that you have is now hyper-curated and filtered through moral superiority and keyboard warriors on the internet, is actually not a bad idea at all. In fact, this is grounds for some very rich comedy, but the reason that this falls so flat is because the show itself is horrible. Flat writing, uninspired characters, the most piss-poor attempts at humor that you've ever seen in your life. Put all of these together in a shit sandwich and you have what the new norm is. And it's not to say that political satire can't be done tastefully and correctly, because it absolutely can. Look at a show like South Park. Look at a movie like Don't Look Up. These are 2 examples of political satire done correctly because the writers actually know what the fuck they're doing. Who would have thought? But the new norm just feels like slop. Slop to the highest degree, and it is a genuine waste of time to even give the show the time of day, because it is just so horrible.
So apparently Asmongold is the most watched streamer in all of North America, and I'm seeing people react to this saying some shit like, oh, he's just so real. He just keeps it real and that's why he's so successful, man. I love him. Keeps it real. We're talking about the same man who had to wash down water with soda because he didn't like the taste of the water. This guy is allergic to basic human hygiene. He has roaches crawling around his room, and you're on some, yeah, he just keeps it real, man. You know, this is the stuff that I like to relate to. What are we relating to exactly? Because I don't think these are good things. And, you know, call me a naysayer, call me a hater, call me whatever you want. I never understood the hype behind watching streams. I just never found it very entertaining to tune into a stream live and watch whatever game or whatever someone wants to talk about. I much rather prefer YouTube videos or a show, you know, something of substance. And in my eyes, he's just an evil Charlie. They both have long hair. They both make their living from giving takes on the internet. But the difference is Charlie showers. And although say what you want about his takes and how they are pretty lukewarm and sit right on the fence, at least he doesn't have bad takes half the time, and he showers. So in my eyes, yeah, Charlie over Asmongold.
The easiest way to tell how mature someone is or how much they've grown as a person is in how they curse, in how they use swear words. Because, you know, I'm not trying to say that you should be using curse words every single sentence. You don't need to have a sailor's mouth to be mature. That's not what I'm trying to say. But growing up, you know, being a potty mouth was discouraged. You were scolded if you use cuss words. But you can really tell who are the people that learned to use them early on, and you can tell who the people are that didn't, because a good, properly used cuss word can really elevate a sentence in a way that a lot of other words wouldn't be able to. And you'd really only be able to learn that if you yourself were constantly using them, or at least trying to make your sentences as strong and emotionally charged as possible to get your point across. Now, I'm gonna share a story with you guys, right? I have a friend, she is a kind soul, right? She's a very sweet person. I don't think in the 4 years that I've known her, I've ever heard her cuss. Until our very last year of senior year, all of a sudden, I don't know what fucking switch flipped in her head, and she just started cussing out of nowhere. You can tell that she doesn't know how to cuss because she's just spamming that shit every single sentence. It's like, oh, fuck, shit, bitch. And when I first heard her saying that, I started clutching my pearls. I was like, ooh, whoa, you can't say that. It sounded so unnatural when she said it. And that's when I really started thinking, damn, like, learning how to curse is genuinely a skill, albeit it's not the most useful skill in the world, but it's a skill nonetheless, and she definitely does not have it. It is illegal to come into the United States without due process. You are by definition breaking the law. Yes, this is 100% correct. Legality is not morality. And that's a concept that I think a lot of people struggle to understand, because at one point in America, it was legal to own slaves. It was legal to deny women the right to vote. It was legal to arrest people because they used the wrong colored water fountain when they weren't supposed to. But we don't even have to keep this just to the American standard. We can look at it globally. It was legal to slaughter Jewish people as a Nazi in Nazi Germany because that was what the law said that you could do. Does this mean that those things were correct? Does that mean that we should allow those things to happen? Absolutely not. Why? Because legality is not morality. Obviously, I'm making this video in reference to LA and how that shit is looking like prime tilted towers right now. It's going crazy. In response to the raids. Raids which are targeting children, splitting up families, going after people while they're just doing their jobs. Call me crazy, but I don't think that's morally correct. And what do you call a country that uses military force when there is a protest? You are no longer a free country. There is a D word for a country like that, and it is not democracy. I also find it pretty funny that a lot of people don't like to acknowledge the fact that this country was built by immigrants and would not be where it is today had it not been for immigrant labor. It's even more so poetic that everything's going on in LA of all places, because I want you to listen to the name of that city. LA. Los Angeles. Los Angeles. The city is quite literally named in Spanish. Their culture, their economy, their infrastructure was built by immigrant hands, a lot of which were probably undocumented immigrants at that. And when a country profits off of your existence but punishes your presence, resistance sort of becomes necessary. When laws are being weaponized against you, protest is a means of survival. I also want to talk about Hispanic influencers, although I hate using the term influencer, it feels like a slur. There's really no other word that I can call them. People that make their living off of content creation on the internet. A lot of Hispanic influencers at times like this are strangely quiet, and they refuse to speak up about anything that's going on because it's going to hurt their bottom line. They don't want to lose out on brand deals or sponsorships or this and that. And to ignore the culture that you profit off of in times like this is cowardly, and it is such a sad sight to see. And if I'm being 100% honest, a lot of the Hispanic influencers that we have to look up to are stupid as shit. Like, they're just fucking morons. Airheads. There's a lot going on over here, but not a lot of thinking up here. And not all of them. I'm not saying all Hispanic influencers are stupid, but a good chunk of them genuinely just parrot stereotypes and fetishize their own culture, all in the name of content, to keep dancing for the oh so precious algorithm that gives them the way of life that they have now. And it is so embarrassing to see. I'll end it off with this. Are immigrant families breaking the law by living here without papers? Yes, absolutely. Has this country had a pretty long history of bad laws that have dehumanized people? Also yes. So do you get what I'm trying to say here? The second that you start prioritizing legality over the moral and ethical grounds of a situation is the second that you stop believing in democracy. And that is a very slippery slope. Two powerful abilities with no downsides, which one are you choosing? The first power is called the Herald of Inflation. With the snap of your fingers, you can summon one inflated furry, and it can be as big or as small as you want it to be. This furry is completely loyal to you, intelligent, sentient, combat capable, and indestructible. Every time that you summon the inflated furry, its attributes are the exact thing that you need in that situation. For example, let's say that you fell off of a high building. You can summon the inflated furry to turn into a giant cushion that will break your fall and save your life. Let's say that somebody is shooting a gun at you. You summon the inflated furry, and now it is an indestructible, impenetrable fortress that cannot let bullets get to you. You want to fly? You can summon the inflated furry, and it will now be extremely lightweight to the point where you can fly around with it as you please. The inflated furry also has a secret second ability where it can emit a mysterious green aura that will put all of the enemies in your radius to sleep permanently forever. And that is ability number one. That's power number one. The second ability is called the Gape Gate. The Gape Gate allows your asshole to become a cosmic gateway to another dimension called the Gape Realm, which is a one-to-one copy of Earth, except it all resides inside of your asshole. With this, you can store or take out anything that you want that's already on Earth. Think weapons, nuclear missiles, gold bars, diamonds, animals, people. It can be quite literally anything that is inside of Earth right now. You have a one-to-one copy of it inside of your asshole. And you can also transport any of your enemies into the Gape Realm and banish them there forever, if that's what you want to do. The Gape Realm has infinite storage and also allows you to store things that are past our physical ability. For example, if you want to get rid of all sadness in the world, you can physically grab the feeling of sadness, put it up your ass, and store it in the Gape Realm, and it will cease to exist in the real world, meaning no one will ever be sad ever again. Or, if you want to get rid of the law of gravity, if the law of inertia, any type of physics law that you don't like, you can physically grab it and store it in the Gape Realm, and it will cease to exist in the real world, meaning you can probably find a way to bend the fabric of space and time if you're smart with it. It seems like a very powerful ability, and that's it. So, those are my two abilities, the Herald of Inflation and the Gape Gate. I'm gonna go with the Herald of Inflation just because I'm not too keen on stuff coming in and out of my ass. It seems pretty inconvenient, as powerful as the ability may be. I'm sticking with the Herald of Inflation just because it'd be pretty convenient to be able to summon a giant inflated furry whenever I want, especially with the properties that it has. That's good for you. Cannot say you have haters in the presence of low tier God. This man's haters are some of the most dedicated, persistent, creative people on the planet, and they use all of this energy and they channel it into hating on low tier God. And to be fair, you definitely reap what you sow, right? Building an entire community off of being toxic and telling people to kill themselves might not help your public image the most. But if you read through some of the YouTube videos that they used to be clip accounts of low tier God, now they're deadass just hate accounts, bro. I want y'all to see this. Low tier God turns into prime Dale Wilson plus tries his best tough guy impression. Low tier God judges Met Gala outfits even though he dresses like a child. Lonely single deadbeat father. Oh my god, I can't even finish reading it. There's like 3 dots at the end, so it's longer, but you get the... He also played Fall Guys pretty recently, and everybody that was in the game with him made it their life's mission to fuck him over and not let him enjoy the game. And when you look at the top comments for that post, it's like, low tier God gets held by other players because he was never able to hold his daughter, or like, low tier God struggling to play games because he was never there to play games with his daughter. And it's like, oh my god, bro, you can't help but smile when you read these hate comments because it is 110% justified. If you look into what low tier God has done over the years and the amount of positivity that he's spread on the internet or lack thereof, like I said, you reap what you sow, and it is what... I see the phrase lyrical genius thrown around a lot on the internet to the point where I'm starting to think that it's losing its meaning. Because the fact of the matter is, if you find a song emotional and relatable, that does not equate to lyrical genius. Because music, like any sort of art form, is a craft. And for something to be beautifully written, there's not that many artists that you can hand that title to. Here's an example of a song that a lot of people like to call lyrical genius. I'll start it off by saying this. The song is good. He's a good artist. There's a reason that he has 40 million monthly listeners. It's because he's good at what he does. But to call this song lyrical genius feels a bit disingenuous when it is quite literally the most surface level emotion about missing a girl prepackaged into a song for the masses. How many other songs have you heard that are about a girl and how, oh, I miss her. Oh, she was beautiful. Oh, she's gone now. There are so many. This song is not deep, and it is not the lyrical genius that you think it is. Sure, it's a good song. It's comfortable. You know, you can vibe to the song, but that does not equate to lyrical genius. Do you want me to give you some examples of what I believe to be real lyrical genius? I'll give you some. Kurt Cobain, Lin-Manuel Miranda, Kendrick Lamar, and Will Wood are 4 examples of artists that I can think of off of the top of my head who I truly think are lyrical geniuses. And although these guys are in different genres of music, what do they all have in common? Their songs have layered meanings. They use precise language. They convey emotion without directly saying anything. These are the traits that you can really put together to call a song lyrical genius. If you want an even more specific example, let's look at one song from Hamilton, right? Just a singular line. I'm past patiently waiting, I'm passionately smashing every expectation, every act is an act of creation. Oh, that's good. Oh my god, that is a good fucking lyric. And you know why? Not because it's just rhyming for the sake of rhyming, but because it has rhythmic structure and narrative density, all jam-packed into a singular line. And when you have the full context of the musical, it's even that much better. And here's the point that I want to drive home. Yes, Somber is a good artist, but just because a song is sad and emotional doesn't automatically mean that it's this incredibly nuanced and deep piece of music that is going to feed generations, because it's not. It's really not. There are levels to this shit, and there are lyrical geniuses, and there are mainstream artists. But I think it's important that we learn to separate the two. If World War III actually happens and motherfuckers start getting drafted, oh, it's over with, bruh. I know I'm probably not going to be the first person to say this, but my generation is going to get fucked if they get drafted. I have a homeboy who got tired going down the stairs. How the fuck do you get tired going down? I know that if he's in my platoon, we're not making it back alive. I know that every single year there is some sort of global tension that makes people think we're going to go into a third world war, because I remember this exact same talking point happened like 1 or 2 years ago and everybody was freaking out and we all thought that we were going to get drafted, but bro, that ass might go down. And I will be the first to admit that if you put me in that war zone, I will not be saving any lives. Miss me with that Hacksaw Ridge shit where I'm going into the open battlefield to rescue people one by one and bring them back to base. Yeah, what the fuck do I look like, bro? If someone throws a grenade at me, I'm gonna be playing hot potato with that shit. I'm gonna grab it, I'm gonna look at my homeboy next to me, I'm gonna hey, catch, and I'm gonna fucking duck and cover. Hey, it was you or me. It was you. And the worst part is, if you received any sort of government aid, whether that's food stamps, FAFSA, government loan, this or that, you are eligible to get drafted. Yes, you will be on the battlefield in the front lines, on the infantry. So, yeah, have fun, guys. 2 body mutations that give you extraordinary powers. Which one are you choosing? The first mutation is called chest blasters. With this mutation, your nipples turn into a pair of hyper-advanced bio-integrated energy cannons that allow you to shoot an unlimited amount of energy out of your nipples. And by energy, I mean any form of energy that already exists on Earth. You now have an unlimited access of it within your nipples. So you can shoot out plasma, lightning, gamma radiation, shockwaves. Any form of energy that already exists, you can now shoot it out of your nipples. Also, your nipples are now connected to your brain, so you don't have to think about aiming. As long as you have the intent of shooting something and hitting it, it will hit with 100% accuracy. You have aimbot. You do not have the ability to miss. Also, the beam's strength feeds off of your ego, so the more confidence that you have within your own powers, the stronger that it gets, and there is no limit to this power. It can get exponentially stronger to the point where you could quite literally just shoot the Earth in half and split it apart and end human society as we know it. So it's pretty strong, and there is no downside, and there's a lot of scenarios that you can think of and how you could use this for combat capabilities, and that is the first mutation, the chest blasters. The second mutation is called the throat vault, and if the name didn't give it away, your throat is now a dimensional storage system that has infinite space and can never run out or get full, meaning you can store as many things as you want within your throat and take them out as you please. Whenever you store something, the size doesn't matter. You can store a private jet, an airplane, people, entire countries, it doesn't matter. You can store it in your throat as you please, and you can spit it out extremely easily. It's like spitting out a Tic Tac. It'll take half a second, doesn't matter the size. Size does not matter for your power. You can store anything and spit it out as you please. Also, you don't just have to store physical things. You can also store things like fire, black matter, gravity, the sun, right? It doesn't just have to be things that you can grab physically. You can store them. As long as you think of it, you can just, it's in your throat. This is probably like some really crazy vor thing, but that's not what I'm trying to go at with this. Your throat is basically just the world's backpack, and you can put anything that you want inside of it and take it out whenever you want. And that is the second power. Out of these 2 mutations, I'm going to go with the chest blasters because having infinite storage does seem pretty cool, but it seems like a lot of effort to make useful, and I don't feel like doing all that, so I'm just going to go with the nipple cannons. I just saw a post about a far-right femboy pledging his allegiance to Hitler and the Nazi Party, and I know that sentence seems like a bit of a mouthful, so let me break it down for you. Neo-Nazis still exist to this day. We know this. It's common knowledge. You don't need to go into the deepest, darkest pits of the internet in order to find people that agree with the neo-Nazi ideology. But femboys being a part of this group of people is extremely surprising, and this is genuinely one of the first times that I've ever seen this occur. Why? Because Hitler would not have liked femboys, not at all. And I don't know if it's the internet's fault for memifying or almost glorifying the Nazi ideology to the point where people think that Hitler was a super progressive guy who would have liked femboys. But let me give you a brief history lesson as to what type of a man Hitler actually was. Because if you were a femboy in Nazi Germany, he would have skinned you alive. He would have murdered you. He would have made you face a wall and let a firing squad absolutely demolish you. You would have gotten the last back shots of your life because you'd be dead. And let's look back to Hitler's idea of a perfect man. What was Hitler's perfect utopia of people that he wanted to have all of Germany be? White, blonde, heterosexual people who were subservient to the state. And if you deviated from that standard, which he deemed perfect, you were seen as not only a threat to the Nazi party, but a threat to Germany. So what would he do? He would send you to a concentration camp. He would make sure that you weren't having fun. He would try to fix you, but in reality, he just made sure that you weren't alive anymore. And there were definitely rumors of homosexuals within the Nazi party. In fact, there have been accounts of gay men who joined Nazi Germany, but those men weren't really liked at all. Queerness in Nazi Germany was seen as degenerate and weak, and gay men were persecuted within Nazi Germany. Over 100,000 gay people were persecuted, sent to concentration camps, tortured, killed, used as medical experiments forcefully against their will. So trust me when I say Hitler would not have liked femboys. If you were a femboy in Nazi Germany, you are not safe, but you will be safe in my DMs. I watched a video about a man who claims he used to be a pedophile, and the video is 1 hour long, so I'll give you the synopsis. He discovered CP when he was a teenager, or like at a young age. He accidentally stumbled across it. After that, he realized that he liked it, he got into it. So, as an adult, later into his adult life, he started consuming more and more of it. And the only reason that he stopped was because he got caught. He sent in a computer for repair that had CP on it. The person repairing it found out what he had, reported him to the authorities, and he was later sent to prison, I believe. He got in trouble with the police. And that is when he finally started going into therapy and doing this and that in order to stop himself from being a pedophile. And I really want to talk about this because it made me think. And some of the points that he brought up, although they have some logic to them, I still do not agree with them at all. First of all, the sentence, I used to be a pedophile. Used to, for a connotation as strong as a pedophile, does not exist, right? There are a lot of things that you can used to do. I used to like cats over dogs. I used to eat pizza every day. I used to watch Zootopia, but only the end credits where they had the Giselle singing. There are a lot of things that you can used to do. But to say that you used to be a pedophile does not exist. Why? Because pedophilia is not this thing that is an on and off switch that you can just have or not have. You either are a pedophile or you are not a pedophile. It is a very black and white binary thing. There's not a whole lot of nuance that you can add on to this because that's how pedophilia works. Pedophilia, in my eyes, is a mental disability. It is something deeply rooted within the inner crevices of your brain that makes you like children. And hot take, that's bad. The guy also talks about preventive care for pedophilia and how there needs to be a space where men who are experiencing pedophilic thoughts can go there to get help without being socially reprimanded because there's a lot of negative stigma around pedophilia, and if there were areas where people could go and recover before anything happens, that would be perfect because then we live in a better world. And here's the thing. That sentence has logic to it. Yes, if people could go and get help in therapy when they're experiencing pedophilic thoughts, that would be better because it stops more bad things from happening. But you're asking me to sympathize with a pedophile. That point blank is what you're asking me to do, and I just can't do it. Morally, I really, really can't. If you are a pedophile, I do not believe that you deserve the help that you oh so much think you need. If you are a pedophile, there are two things that you can do. You can shove those feelings deep down and ignore them and die with them, which is what I think you should do. That's the correct thing to do. Or you can admit it, like him. And once you admit it, what defense is there for your actions? There are none. Because as a pedophile, you prey on one of the most vulnerable groups in the world, children. And you don't have any remorse for your actions. You can say that you do. You can go to therapy. You can go on podcasts preaching how society needs to have more stigma-free, accepting areas to accept pedophilia as a disease that can be treated and cured. But I don't think it can. I don't know if that's a hot take. I genuinely don't think you can cure a pedophile. You can hide it, but you can't heal it. And until modern neuroscience advances to the point where we can pick apart people's brains and really dive into the architecture of what makes the human mind the mind and change people's brain chemistry on a fundamental level, you will never be able to cure pedophilia. Because what I just described is a fucking sci-fi fantasy that only exists in movies. That does not exist in real life. There is no magical operation where the doctor can take out the fucking pedophilia in your brain and now you're magically cured. That doesn't exist. So when you tell me I used to be a pedophile, I don't believe you. You know what you're telling me? I am a pedophile. There's no used to. You're not recovered. And maybe this video is coming off as a little bit harsh to pedophiles, but I don't care. If it does come off as harsh to pedophiles, oh well. If there are any pedophiles watching that feel targeted, I don't care. I really don't. You should not be allowed to make porn games for children. That is not a hot take. That is not something that you can argue with me on. There's no point to be contested. No, you cannot make porn games on a website predominantly targeted towards children. Roblox is mostly kids, right? The primary audience that plays that game are minors, usually younger children. You should not be allowed to make porn games on Roblox. I know this isn't a hot take. I imagine most people are going to agree with me on this. So why am I bringing this up? Well, very recently, Roblox had this little event where they invited a fuck ton of developers, right? Because they wanted to be part of their event, and they want to host it, and they want all their games to be part of the event, this and that. They invited a developer who makes porn games. Why would we do this? And better yet, why have you motherfuckers not banned porn games on your platform? I mean, I'm not going to be the first one to tell you that Roblox moderation really could care less about the rampant pedophilia, grooming, and not safe for work content that they have on their site. But inviting a developer who's pretty well known for making condo games onto your event cannot be a good idea. I don't know who the fuck on the Roblox team didn't think to maybe do a little background check on what games this developer is known for before you invite them over to your event. But condo games are porn games. They just don't call it porn games because they would get banned on Roblox if that's what you called it. The condo games are you go in and all the fucking Roblox characters are naked and you simulate sex. You literally have e-sex. Okay, you're fucking pixels. And, obviously, probably not a good idea to have that on a website that is predominantly children. And it's probably not a good idea to invite a fucking developer who makes porn games for children. I really don't know how much more clear I can enunciate the words out of my mouth that this is bad. This is not like anything that anybody could really try to debate me on, unless you're a pedophile, in which case, I know where you stand, but yeah, that's all I have.